Hello and welcome to R&R's Ask the Expert. I'm Kayla McGowan, editor-in-chief, and today we are talking about how to build, scale, and future-proof your restoration business or any home service business, for a matter of fact. Our special guest is Dan Claps, CFE, and he is the CEO of Voda Cleaning and Restoration. Dan has guided Voda's growth to over 100 owners and more than 200 locations across the country. He brings over 10 years of franchising experience and so much more. You're going to get to know him on this episode and how he's found such great success. So without further ado, please welcome Dan.
Kayla, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to speak with you. I've listened to the show many times and excited to have this conversation.
Thank you so much for coming on. I think we talked about this before. It's long overdue. I've been watching you guys very closely, and I think that you have some great insights on a variety of things that, make you guys so successful. And I really just wanted to touch base on those because I think we're coming off of a rough couple of years, which can be a little scary for some people, but you guys have just embraced it and shown so much grace. And I think that when we were talking a little bit earlier, I told you guys were such a unique hat. Though you are a franchise, you guys are almost like an independent as well. So it's a really unique business. And I think that, you guys starting from ground zero to over 100 owners and 200 locations in the span of less than 5 years, let's be really real here. You guys have found a quote unquote secret sauce, but I think it's one of those things that the entire industry can learn from. So, with that being said, growth. I know there's growing pains, but what type of operational guardrails and like QA systems and performance metrics should any really home service company look at when they're trying to scale quickly, but never sacrifice their, craftsmanship or their customer outcomes? What has been so great for you guys?
Yeah, it's a great question. To me, it's all about tracking KPIs, as everyone says, but really it's about what I like to call TIF. So you have KPIs, key performance indicators, and then you have TIF, which is the important few. That's my little acronym for the important few key performance indicators. You don't need a ton. And so to me, the first thing is in the morning. If you want to be on time throughout the day, how do you do it? You got to be on time for the first job. And so tracking on time report of the first job of the day, super important. For us, obviously tracking 5-star reviews and any level of variance from not a 5-star review. We have almost 10,000 or over 10,000 5-star reviews. So we look at that as kind of the main hub of a hub or leading indicator of that we're doing the right thing. Another quality perspective, what we do it at our flagship. Not all of our owners do it, but it's something we're working toward. Is at our flagship, we actually call every single job that we did the day prior, and we ask for feedback, good and bad. And what happens is the CSR is able to take that feedback and say to the technician, "Hey, I got the feedback. Here's the good. Here's the bad. Here's some more good." But it's every single time, and so there's almost like no slipping from that quality control. And then another thing that we do at Voda as a franchise company is we do what's called Operation Insight, where we actually do secret shopping campaigns all around the country, where one of our owners will go, they'll do a service. They don't know it at the time, but it's actually a hired secret shopper. And that's not to be Big Brother or anything like that, but actually our franchise owners love it because it gives them a lot of insights.
No, those are wow. First of all, kudos to you guys because that is no small task to actually call and follow up with every job that you guys are doing. I think it also provides a great coaching opportunity, which I know that in this industry we're constantly evolving, learning, and growing, and it's instant. I think that that's really important to really pick up on here for those who are listening. It's not in 3 to 6 months we're reaching out to them where it's not fresh in the customer's mind. It's immediate, which
Right.
allows you to say, hey, these were the great things that you did, and here's something that we can improve. It's nothing bad, but here's how we can improve it. And so you're constantly leveling up your staff, which shows your staff that you have bought into them. And then next, the secret shopper. So, fun fact, when I was in college, I worked at a grocery store. We had secret shoppers. And the thing about that is it keeps you honest, but it also shows you how your staff is performing on a day-to-day basis with no idea what is actually going on and who the customer is. I think that's really important. Obviously, in the grocery shopping world, we kind of picked up on who our shoppers were eventually, which we were able to prepare. But I think the thing is I'm sure you reward your team for those secret shoppers, which is extremely important because it shows that your team cares for everybody equally, regardless of who it is, right? And I think that's another thing that just really goes above and beyond because at the end of the day, we're in people's homes and businesses, something that is so emotional for them, but also so personal. And so the most important thing is taking care of people to our best ability and giving them that white glove or five-star customer service, right? Can you kind of share a little bit of the success you guys have had with those secret shoppers? Like, whether you want to share good or bad, I just think it's really cool to hear
Yeah.
that that's actually been implemented.
Yeah, and you know it's funny when I first had the idea for secret shopping. That one was I'll take credit for. I don't have that many ideas, but that one was one of my good ones out of the many bad. But first off, when we first launched it, I remember saying to franchise owners at a conference, like, if you hate this and you all have figurative pitchforks, we won't do it. But I really believe this could be a huge advantage. So what we learned about the secret shopping is number one, it's not about just what people do not as well. It's also about rewarding what's going well. And so it's actually probably more of a reward system than not. Because what's interesting about it is the data just kind of shows people. We don't have to say you didn't put your, shoe coverings on. The data is there, and then people see it and they're like, oh wow, like there's an opportunity for us. Or another example, we look at upsell. So our looking for an opportunity to upsell in the home, not close, not meaning someone took the offer, but just even presenting it, and we can see that, and then we know as a system where we need to focus on. And if anyone's listening and they're interested in that, I can connect them. It's a company we work with that does it, but it's super helpful. And what's great about it is it's always the same thing. So it's an evaluation with very specific criteria, and you can change it. You can start to realize, we don't really care about that particular thing, but what's important in the home is, this happens. And so it's been a game changer for us.
No, that's really cool. I would definitely say too, it's a reward system that builds a great culture, right? Because then it becomes
Hmm.
a competition, I'm sure, between staff
Hmm.
and even
Yeah.
the other franchises, right? I remember that so spot on in my mind. Like we were rewarded with gift cards and things like that, but also you had bragging rights, right? Like I think that's the other thing is like, hey, I've scored perfect on all of my secret shoppers, right? It's like another
Yeah.
fun competitive thing, which I think is really, really cool. So speaking of like culture and just the way you guys function, I know people first is very important to you, right? So beyond any like cliche slogans or sayings, what are some of the concrete practices, the hiring profiles, the trading cadences, all of those fun things that help translate culture into a consistent field performance across all of your markets?
Mm. Well, I'll give you something a little bit, yeah, not cliche. And, everyone says kind of the same things a lot of the times. I'm a big believer that, if you want to build a great culture, listening to your team, celebrating their wins, having the parties here and there, breaking bread with your team, those are all great. That's like the price of entry. Like if you want to have a culture, you now have a culture or a good culture. Now, if you want to have an exceptional culture or an extraordinary culture, you have to be extraordinary. And to me, that's all about all the things we just said happen, but it's all about incentives. I believe that deep down, every person is motivated by incentives. It doesn't have to just be monetary, but a lot of times it is. And so, to me, when you're bringing in a teammate or a technician, giving someone an incentive financially that they can impact that, in other words, like their incentive can't just be like we're profitable. They can't control all the things that make a business profitable. You could be, buying trucks with the money. I don't know, or boats. But what they can control is the review they got on the job, the gross margin they were able to obtain on the job, or the average ticket. And so that should be where you're compensating someone, not just on gross margin, because that would just be financial. But hey, look, I need this many five-star reviews and I need this gross margin and this average ticket, and you get X bonus financially, or may not be money, it could be something else, but whatever motivates them.
Yeah, and I would definitely say too, with the people first, you get to know your staff, so you know what they're really incentivized by too. I know a lot of times to your point it is monetary, but heck, some people like PTO. Some people
Right.
like maybe a certificate or a gift card. Like everybody has their own preference, and I think it's really cool to kind of hear your thoughts on that because at the end of the day, it can't be a copy paste mentality. We, again, back to the humanization of what we do and who we are. That's what a people first culture is getting to know your team and understanding where their buy-in is. And I would also say career growth, right? That could feed into career growth depending on how you have things laid out. And that means that your staff is now bought in, right? It's not just another job. They're like, where can I go with this? How
Yeah.
can I create a career? And I'm sure the goal at the end of the day would be to be able to have additional locations from staff that have already been on board, right? So there's some really cool things that you guys have done that I will say does not go unnoticed. But I think it's really cool that you are sharing some of these things because in a world where we're often not thanked a lot, not necessarily internally, but externally, right, from the
Yeah.
people that we serve, these types of things that are put in place make the world of a difference. So, with that being said, I know success is like what everybody wants, right? We all want to see success in some way, shape, or form. But what traits kind of help predict success in local markets and, not just for us in restoration or cleaning, but just home services in general. And I think where I want to stress this here is regardless of the brand, whether you're independent, franchise, whatever the
Mm.
case may be, what does that look like? Your onboarding and playbooks and support especially when you're in year one. I know it's extremely important in year one, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I can sum it up pretty quickly, but what I'll tell you just on the incentive thing really quick, just 'cause I think it's a relevant story. I used to own a call center and we had lots and lots of people in the call center. And I had this one guy that was working there. He was great. And when he started, he was doing great first couple weeks. And then like every Tuesday and Thursday would like find a way to not be at the office. And this was before COVID. And this was when like Monday through Friday at the office was very normal. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And it turned out that, a lot of jobs weren't understanding this. I don't even know if that's legal, how that works. But long story short, it turned out that on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, like for some whatever reason, he had he had custody of his kids. And like those were the days that he was with his kids or picking up his kids. And I remember just saying like, this is crazy. Just don't come here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. What if you work Saturday and Sunday, or earlier Monday? And we basically recreated a schedule. It didn't affect me at all. But because I knew his motivations, he was there forever because it was like, I love this job. I get to do the thing I need to do. I still could have a Monday through Friday job versus like a waiter or some other job that would give the flexibility. It was all about knowing the incentives and then just finding something that mutually worked. As far as in the market, so to me, I think everyone overcomplicates this business. Uh, I'll say that with a grain of salt in the sense that if you're listening, a lot of you have been doing restoration longer than I've been alive or in the industry for sure, and I have a lot of respect for what you do. So I don't want to minimalize that. But what I believe about most businesses, whether it's home services or really any business, is if you boil it down, you're in a sales and marketing business. You have a widget that you sell. You try to create the greatest widget you can, which is an exceptional service. And then that's great, but we have to remember is that you're in a sales and marketing business. And so the local owners that go out there, they network heavy, they're the mayor of the town, they bring in business, they do an exceptional job, they repeat, they ask for referrals, they ask for reviews, they do it again. As money comes in, you reinvest into better people so that widget gets even stronger and better. And then you go back out and you sell and you market again. And so it's like, I think it's this mentality of understanding that most of your business is the little stuff, the B&I, the networking, the building relationships. And then the other thing I'll mention is I think the owners that understand that every job can lead to an opportunity. We just recently had a carpet cleaning job. It was $500. The homeowner called. I don't even know if we made any money on it. The homeowner called a week later with a $75,000 fire loss because it turned out the homeowner owned a commercial building. And so it's understanding that every job can lead to an opportunity. And the analogy I like to give to people is, I'll put you on the spot, but like, who's your favorite musician or band artist? Who's your favorite performer?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would definitely say I'm a California girl. I love my girl Kaylani from the Bay Area.
Okay.
And yeah, I would definitely say that's who I'm most like. I followed her whole career. So yeah, it's just fun fact about me. I don't think I've ever shared that before. So great
All right.
question.
It's perfect though. If you go and see her perform and your favorite song and she performs it, it's your first time experiencing that. It's her 200th time performing that year or whatever it is. And so I think it's like the mentality, the same thing is with your business. That customer, whether it's 5,000, 500,000, or $5, like the experience you give them, you never know where it's going to go. And so I think if I sum it up, it's sales and marketing, and then it's that abundant mentality of I'm going to do every job no matter what.
Yeah, and I would definitely say too, to your point, you may not have made m money on the carpet cleaning side of it, right? You were going in, performing a service for your customer, treating them with the utmost respect and care, and that stuck with that customer, right? That customer called you because of the experience that they had. You're always selling. Everybody in your business is always selling and always marketing because the culture is radiating off of them, the love for the job that they have and the love for the art of cleaning or restoring is radiating off of them. So, I think that's a really great story because it puts things into perspective. What you do today can make or break your success tomorrow or weeks from now, right? Yeah, it may only be 200, $300, but that can, to your point, turn into 75,000 plus, all on something that just happened to happen out of by chance. But because you showed up and had the best behavior and mentality that you possibly could, it stuck with that customer. And even though you did a carpet cleaning service, they called you because they thought, hey, you could do it.
Mm,
That's the other thing is when you're in a service um, industry, your customers are going to call you based on the rapport that they have built with you. It does, even if you don't do what they're looking for, just know you're going to get a phone call. Even if they called you and they said, "Hey, I don't think you can do this, but do you have somebody who could get this stain out of my clothes?" Right? That can happen. And
right.
you never don't ever take it for granted or think like, "Oh man, I don't think this person's going to come back." Because I think that's one thing that we're going to touch on just in a little bit here is, you know, you can have repeat customers even if it's a disaster situation, especially if you're in a zone that sees them regularly, or if it's somebody that you're cleaning their carpets or cleaning their upholstery. You never know. They could always
Right.
call you for something else. So, with that being said, what type of programs or life cycle touch points do you guys have that you've seen, t turn a one-off job into recurring revenue or long-term client relationships? And, how can the industry as a whole maybe adopt those types of patterns to find more success?
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting. I think my answer that I'm going to give to you is that we aren't currently doing some of the things I'm about to mention to you. These are breakthroughs that I've been having in my own entrepreneurial journey. I actually just reached out to some of my marketing team. They're amazing and dynamic. Some of them are earlier in their career, and I basically said this took me 12 years of like a ton of mistakes as an entrepreneur to finally get. And if you could learn it now, like you'll be unstoppable in marketing or business or whatever, which is this idea. And it's actually like a mental framework or like a mental model, which is hidden abundance, which is not like law of attraction abundance. It's actually a concept in business where there's usually monetary opportunity right in front of you that you can easily extrapolate, and we look right past it. It's right in front of us. I'm going to give you an example first, and then I'll answer your question. I was recently, no, not recently, a few years ago, was at an event, and there's a gentleman that bought Dippin' Dots, like Dip. I don't know.
Oh, the ice
I grew up in
cream.
the
Yeah.
Northeast. Yeah, Six Flags. You got Dippin' Dots. They bought the company out of bankruptcy. What Dippin' Dots does is they freeze ice cream like in a cryogenic chamber or whatever. And what they did is they went in and they said, well, what are these like freezing machines doing from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. when they're not doing, Dippin' Dots? There's sitting there. And what they realized is they could take that same technology and make like a Dippin' Dot, but the fat that's in like an Impossible Burger or like a synthetic fat. And what they did was they all of a sudden basically used machines that they had and leased it out to another company and built, the product for them. And I think it was like a $50 million profit like initiative, and they immediately turned the company around. It was right in front of them without any additional costs outside of like operating those machines. I think it's the same thing at a much more simple level as a home service business owner. So all of that to say, you'd be blown away if you just take all the people you serviced for the year. It's not that many. It's not like you're serving thousands and thousands a week. And you just call every single one of them. You have your team call them every 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. Not even to say we're running a promotion, but just to check in. And a lot of you might be listening saying, like, why would anyone want to call from their water restoration, company? But I found that it works, just being top of mind. And then the second thing would be, uh, I know it sounds basic, not everyone does it, but those like a newsletter touching your clients around like what to do if you have frozen pipes or how to help keep their home healthy. I would argue a lot of people will say they're doing it, but if they really were honest with themselves, they're not, at least at the level they could.
Yeah.
And so I think the overall idea is like it's not always about getting more leads. How do we convert the leads we have? How do we service the customers we already serviced? And it's just so easy to look past that. I do it too. But for me, that's been a big push this year so far.
No, I would definitely say like great points. I think it goes into care. You're still caring for them after the service and you're
Yeah.
showing them how to be proactive, right? You gave some great examples. You're calling and you're just saying, "Hey, we just wanted to check in and see how everything's going." It's casual. And then the homeowner or business owner's like, "You know what? I think I did mention or see or somebody mentioned that there's like a water stain on our ceiling," right? That's how that comes to mind. They didn't really think about it, but now that they're on the phone, they're like, "You know what? Matter of fact, I
Yeah.
do have a problem. Can you come and look at it?" The newsletter thing, right? To your point, you know, we know things are happening seasonally. Homeowners or even business owners aren't necessarily aware. So, right, in November, when we know it starts to get cold, maybe that's the time you send out a newsletter that says, "Hey, just so you know, colder weather is coming. Here's how you can avoid burst pipes, or here's what you do if you have a burst pipe," right? So now they're seeing things kind of, it's almost like a retargeting market type thing, where it's constant essentially.
Yeah.
So, no, those are great. That's low-hanging fruit, as we like to call it, right? Um, People may say, why would you do that? But also, now that customer potentially, Mrs. Jones, sees Miss Smith, and Miss Smith is saying, "Oh, I have a problem." And now Miss Jones can say, "Oh, hey, call up Voda Cleaning and Restoration. They're going to take care of you. They just reached out to me, but I don't have any problems, but here's their number," right? I think that's
Yeah.
the other thing we often forget, that word of mouth is so powerful and it's priceless, right? So, to your point, doing this low-hanging fruit type style stuff actually converts long term for you.
Yeah. I'll give you just totally agree with everything you said. Just one more quick example. When I first got involved with Voda, Dragon, the founder of Voda, they were doing an amazing job getting reviews and had thousands of reviews. And I don't know who on the marketing team came up with the idea, but they're like, what if we again, it sounds so simple, but it really made a huge difference. What if we just print the QR code and start asking for the review on the spot with a nice laminated? And our reviews went up 47% from that time forward. And it's like, that's a simple tweak. But if you're listening and you really think about it, like, are you actually doing that? Are you, asking for referrals? Like, I find a lot of times our franchise owners are reluctant to ask for referrals. Obviously, on water mitt, that's not going to make sense, but we do floor cleaning, right? And, you ask for referrals and you get shot down. It's like, well, how many times did you get shot down to sell a job? Many times. You're not closing everyone, right? So why wouldn't you still ask everyone for a referral? I've never in my life given someone a good service and then politely said, "Hey, do you know anyone or who do you know that could be a good fit, for this?" And if they say no, they're not going to punch you in the face. Like, they're happy with your service. You're not pressuring them. I think that's a mental block sometimes people have.
Well, I think like hearing the word no is sometimes hard for people to swallow, but that you assuming that it was going to be no is worse than you just asking and them saying yes, right? Because now you never know what could potentially happen. And the
Right.
QR code thing too, to your point, get them while they're very happy and they are like it's fresh in their mind, because though they may still leave you a review days later, they may forget something that really stood out to them at that time of service. And it's not abnormal. We go to the grocery store now. You check out, it says, "How was our store today? How was our service?" We are
Right.
so we're trained for this, right? As a consumer, we all wear a consumer hat. Why not take advantage of that when you know that people are more than likely going to do that in the moment when you're there in front of them, opposed to receiving a follow-up phone call, text message, or email, right? Simple. What does it take? 2 minutes longer than just saying goodbye, have a good day? Like, right? You're
Yeah.
not, it's not costing your business time, right?
Absolutely.
So, with all that being said, I think that you guys do a great job with adopting and implementing different things into your business, hence all of the stuff we've talked about, especially the QR code thing, which I know sounds silly. 5 years ago, when we were talking about QR codes, people were like, what the heck? No one's going to do that. Now, everybody needs a QR code for everything that they do. What shifts in technology, labor, and customer acquisition and beyond will matter most for our industry? And what should industry leaders start to implement now to be positioned for a great growth wave over the next 24 to 36 months? In your mind, what does that look like? I would not be surprised if you use the words AI, but I think that there's some other things that you might have top of mind that the industry could really benefit from.
I think there's a lot of opportunity in estimating, utilizing not just AI but just technology in general is getting stronger and stronger. We use a program that I'm very happy with in the estimating side. I'm happy to shamelessly plug them, or not that it doesn't affect me, but there's a lot of opportunity where estimating with the use of AI slash some other technology. Components has been really, really good. And it's interesting because I was very reluctant at first with that particular like AI and estimating and all of that. I didn't think that was as possible as it's proving to be. We're seeing estimates with our estimating solution come back completely accurate, and it's like you're paying like $70 or $100 for that service. And so that's an interesting disruptor. Now I don't know. We work with lots of estimating firms. We love you, and what you guys are doing is great too. I don't know. I do think there's a shift that'll happen. I think those services are still worth the percentage that you pay because I do think they probably do a better job. But I do think if you're asking me where we're heading, I think it'd be crazy not to say, well, that AI is only going to get smarter and better. So that's an area with the estimating. Um, and then on the other side, I'll switch gears. I'm like completely against the AI call center. I know it's going to be a thing, but I think if you can lean into like super personalized CSRs, you'll start to become the exception to the rule. I remember I used to have a call center and we made outbound phone calls. And this was before it got even harder. But we actually had a lot of success, Kayla, because we were actually fishing in a pond that everyone forgot to go to. Like no one was doing that anymore. And so all of a sudden, like the power of a personalized, CSR agent answering the phone, I think you'll start to win. And so reinvest into that. Don't start to take away and get excited about AI call centers. I think that's an area for a while at least that we're going to be able to stand out.
Well, I would definitely say too, I think there's pros and cons to AI call centers, but I also think that with us staying on the line and having that customer service be top tier, there's more emotion, there's more care, there's empathy. And also, if you're using the same CSRs for every single customer, they start to find ways to talk to people that unfortunately AI can't, right? Like
No way.
that's the other thing. And so I think, you hit on two really great points. Estimating, I think, is always at the top of mind for a lot of people. It's the backbone of what we do on the restoration side of things, right?
Right.
And there's going to be enhancements, if you will, but I definitely will say it will be coming in-house probably more often than people probably think. Not saying that supplement companies or what have you won't be used, but I
Yeah.
think it's another strength for your business to grow and also kind of speed up the process, especially when we're dealing with claims. But the call center thing, AI, again, I think that there's just some things that we cannot take for granted on the humanized aspect of things, to your point, right? Like we know how it feels when we call in and we get
Yeah.
an AI agent or you get a chat bot, right? So like our customers are feeling the same way we feel when we're calling somewhere else. And let's be real, when they're calling us, it's like an emergency. So the last thing they want to say is
Oh yeah.
representative, representative, right?
Yeah. Who have you ever listened to AI podcast?
I have not.
Me either. They could say great things and it sounds like an AI. Like I want to listen to you and me. So I totally agree.
No, that's a great point, honestly. Well said, because I would definitely say one, we have emotion, but two, we're talking about things that are relevant in this time, and three, our experience and the things that we've seen come into play. AI doesn't have that. It has what you tell it. And so I think that's the other thing that people need to remember. This has been so great. I can't wait to have you on again. Before we sign off, do you have any closing words or thoughts to share with the industry?
Um, no, I think that we're heading into a great time. It was a slower couple years. I think, hopefully I think things are on the uptick and thank you for having me. Love the community and if anyone, wants to be connected, they can find me on LinkedIn and I appreciate the time.
Yes, no, thank you so much. He is easy to find on LinkedIn. I was telling him before we even started this podcast, and I'm like, man, we like interact with each other's stuff and we see what's going on, what we're all doing. And so it's nice to finally be able to sit down and just kind of talk about your successes and what you're passionate about. And, this industry, I think, has seen, like, to your point, a couple of rough years, but I think 2026 is just the start of something great. So thank you, Dan, for coming on. And for all of you watching, we will see you on the next episode of Ask the Expert. Take care.